Now, very first story, Finance Minister said Tekwe is expected to appear before Parliament on Tuesday, April 1, to answer some questions from members. His appearance coincides with several commentaries on the state of the Ghanaian economy, with the latest being concerns raised by credit rating agency Fitch about the country's ability to repay its loans due to its growing debt stock, as well as government's inability to meet its own fiscal targets. The IMF and some analysts, namely the head of research at Standard Chartered Bank Africa, Razia Khan, and central banker Dr. Baumia, have also voiced similar sentiments in the last week. Joynews has learned the finance minister will announce some significant measures to address most of the challenges identified. These include additional measures to tackle the rising budget deficit and to stabilize the economy. The Electoral Commission Chairman, Kojo Afari-Jang, is also expected in the House Tuesday before it rises. Well, President John Mahama has left Accra for the 4th EU-Africa Summit in Brussels, Belgium. The summit is expected to attract some 40 African and 20 European leaders and aims to build on the spirit of the 2007 Joint Strategy of Africa and European Union under the theme, Investing in People, Prosperity and Peace. Flagstaff House officials say this is part of a lineup of key international assignments for the President this week.
President Mahama and other leaders from the continent will be holding discussions with their European counterparts on how to deepen cooperation and foster human capital through education, training and creating additional incentives for investment to stimulate growth and create jobs. A statement from the presidency says President Mahama will also lead a discussion on funding for small and medium enterprises. He'll be a participant in working sessions at the summit, including a business forum. The president will share Ghana's health experiences, especially in eliminating malaria, at a session being organized by the African Union Commission on the Rollback Malaria Program. President Mahama is expected to hold bilateral meetings with a number of world leaders attending the summit, including President of France, François Hollande, and Chancellor of Germany, Angela Merkel, on the margins of the 4th EU-Africa Summit. As the new chair of ECOWAS, President Mahama is also expected to champion the interests and positions of the ECOWAS sub-region on a number of issues. He is scheduled to be the keynote speaker at a London School of Economics event on entrepreneurship later this weekend and address the World Urban Forum in Colombia before returning home early next week.
All 4 occupants of a saloon car with registration number GS96109 died on the spot after they crashed. They crashed into a trailer. Viewers are warned some of the images coming up are quite graphic. The accident occurred on the Tichiman-Wenchi Road in the Brunhafu region. And Nesta Kafuya Jamal correspondent, a Brunhafu correspondent, tells us that apparently there were some other injuries. 21 countries in sub-Saharan Africa, including Ghana, studied in a recent survey, are said to have been left behind in the global economic transformation. Ghana also dropped 7 places in the last 10 years of the Economic Transformation Index of the 21 African countries surveyed, having moved from 9th position to 16th between 2000 and 2010. The Africa Transformational Report put together by the African Center for Economic Transformation revealed the economies of sub-Saharan Africa surveyed have not transformed as compared to some countries in East Asia and Latin America such as Malaysia, South Korea and Brazil. It says though some African countries like Ghana are recording growth, they are not competitive on the global market with regards to manufacturing, exports, technological upgrade and human well-being. The think tank recommends diversification of the economy, export competitiveness and long-term national economic development plans to achieve economic transformation.
Mauritius has been growing at 4% over the past 20 years. We've been growing more than 5%. So it is not so much how fast we are growing, as whether you are doing the basic things right. And Mauritius has been doing the basic things right, and therefore they remain #1 position. It is what holds growth, what underlines growth. Where is the growth coming from? That determines whether growth is going to be sustainable, whether it's going to be inclusive, whether we are going to be able to create jobs or not. That is the essence of the story. And so the old story of Ghana growing at 10%, 15% for us is, yeah, it's nice, but so what?
A severe rainstorm has hit the Volta region town of Jalele in the Akachi North District, ripping off the roofs of over 80 homes and displacing some 300 residents. Volta regional correspondent Komla Ado filed this report.
The rainstorm, which occurred over the weekend, affected over 300 residents, including about 160 children. 7 people sustained minor injuries in the process. The structure being used by the EP Church as a chapel and the school were left out. A teacher in the school, Antoinette Agbube, expressed grief about how this would affect teaching and learning.
This is our structure that we use as a classroom. But with the windstorm collapsing it, we have nowhere else to study now rather than under trees. And this could affect our learning, and we are pleading with the government and the concerned organizations to come to our aid.
A victim who is a trader, she has no money to even put a meal on the table for her family. How much more to have enough to rehabilitate her house? Meanwhile, the district chief executive, James Gunu, led a team of NADMO officials on a visit to the affected families to sympathize with them. He pledged to mobilize some relief items for distribution to affected people and further explained the assembly, in collaboration with NADMO, will assess structures in the area and assist with some rehabilitation works.
Unfortunately, most of these buildings are old buildings. They are old buildings and weak in nature. They are weak in nature, and the rains are coming in more. So together with the NADMO, we are going to advise the people, we will assess all the structures, the weaker structures in the district, and we will advise the occupants accordingly.
The Volta Regional Coordinator for NADMO, Simon Miles Baka, stated his outfit was waiting for some relief items from the national headquarters that will be distributed to the affected families. He attributed the disaster to lack of trees in the area. According to some elders of the town, this is one of the heaviest rainstorms that has hit the town in many years.
The main surgery department at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital has been reopened after a 7-month shutdown for major rehabilitation. The department, following the facelift, should now help clear the backlog of surgeries, but more importantly, improve service delivery to patients. Officials also announced they have expanded their services and can now perform surgical procedures used in the treatment of overweight and obese people, such as gastric bypass, previously unavailable in Ghana.
The lack of maintenance at the surgical theatre for the past 20 years ensured that the facility was completely run down. For the rehabilitation to be done, the first floor, the busiest of them all, had to be shut down for 7 months. It meant that the 5,000 surgeries that are done each year had to be postponed or conducted elsewhere in other departments. Thanks to the facelift though, all 7 theatre suites, recovery ward, changing rooms and restrooms have been expanded and re-equipped with tools to ensure efficient healthcare delivery. The recovery ward has also been fitted with 6 beds and gas pipelines which have their own stands for the placement of monitors. Authorities say this would significantly reduce the number of clients awaiting surgery.
We now have the capacity to perform even more cases than before. With this new capacity, waiting time for patients due for surgery will be reduced to the barest minimum. Our surgeons will be able to perform operations on patients who will need surgical intervention as treatment for overweight and obesity. In due course, we will call on the Honorable Minister to assist in expanding this service to other hospitals in the country through knowledge transfer.
Maintenance vans and ambulances have also been provided. The sector minister tasked management to put in measures to ensure maintenance of the equipment.
The equipment replacement program is 70% completed nationwide. Taking into account the cost involved, there is still the need for Kolebu Teaching Hospital to put in place an effective, efficient, implementable preventive maintenance plan to train nurses, to train engineers, to make sure that we'll be able to minimize breakdown of equipment.
The babies unit of the Child Health Department has also been rehabilitated with new equipment and increased bed capacity. The renovation of the Surgical Theatre and the babies unit forms part of the $67 million package that Government of Ghana is investing in retooling the hospital under the National Equipment Replacement Project.
Well, authorities of the Child Health Department of the Kolebu Teaching Hospital are appealing to government to secure funds to complete the children's emergency ward. The authorities say the congestion at the current makeshift ward is causing an increase in the number of deaths recorded at the center.
The emergency ward of the Child Health Department was last year relocated to this room, which only takes 22 patients, as the original ward could take 40 patients. The relocation was to make way for the construction of a new structure, which would be retooled with the capacity to admit more patients. The current situation, authorities say, is not good enough considering the number of emergency cases referred to the hospital.
Because we are the last stop, as it were, we are forced to add yet another child to a bed when it is already occupied when a child arrives on our doorstep. Though we know it is demeaning of the children's dignity, we have no choice even when our beds are full, because they often arrive so ill that they will not survive transfer to another facility.
The construction of the new structure has meanwhile stalled due to the lack of funds.
Looking at our statistics, the mortality rate for children in the emergency room was about twice those who are admitted upstairs, and 86% of these deaths occurred within 72 hours of admission, 40% within 24 hours. Many of these children probably could have been saved if intensive care facilities were available for them. It is therefore very important that funding is secured to construct this building, which is well overdue.
The health minister has promised to take up the issue.
We have budgeted for 2014 to purchase 540 neonatal units with all the ancillary to go with it. But on the issue of the emergency, the children's emergency unit, I have noted it, and I believe that we'll work very hard to make sure that this unit is completed.
The Children's Emergency Center was set to be completed between 18 to 24 months.
Well, more stories coming up after the break. Stay tuned. Members of Parliament fear they may be the next targets in recent murders. Some members of Parliament, I'll take that story again. Members of Parliament fearing they may be the next targets in recent killings. they describe as contract killings, are appealing to the leadership of the House to make arrangements for their personal security. The House also entreated the Ghana Police Service to speed up investigations into the murders.
Two statements delivered on the floor of Parliament by Member of Parliament for Ablekuma West, Esla Owusu-Ekufo, and MP for Akim Swedru Kennedy Osei, called on the Ghana Police Service to, as a matter of urgency, speed up investigations into the recent murders.
The rising tension in our society, get-rich-quick syndrome, as well as the impatience and intolerance among some young people and their unwillingness to use established processes and procedures to resolve differences could also be the cause of this phenomenon. Mr. Speaker, the question is, how prepared and equipped are the police to provide protection to us? You and I could be the next victims, and we are all at risk.
The police must make their investigations known to the public so that as concerned citizens we can factor their recommendation into investigation report in our daily life activities.
Ablekuma West MP Esla Owusu-Ekufo challenged the police to intensify its patrols, particularly at night, to help deal with the situation, and called for the formation and training of neighborhood watchdog committees to be intensified.
Police hotlines and emergency numbers should be publicized more, and prompt action should be taken on incidents reported to them. They should also be equipped with the requisite technology and resources to combat crimes, as most criminals have become more sophisticated.
Other MPs joined in a debate and re-echoed their calls to the leadership of the House to provide them with personal security.
Mr. Speaker, you'll be surprised to hear that some of us, even in this House, have narrowly escaped this type of attacks. And therefore, as my honourable colleague indicated, we should not sit down until some of us or a colleague is lost before we attempt to find a solution to this kind of criminal activities.
These crooks who have to, these murderers are people who are targeting MPs because they think that they have a perception that MPs have resources in their houses, and so they are rich, and so they can target them.
MP for Ablekuma North, Joe Apia, was however of the opinion the best protection comes from God.
Mr. Speaker, when the arrows came to me, I just prayed a simple prayer, Isaiah 54:17, that no weapon fashioned against me shall prosper. It really worked, Mr. Speaker. It really worked. And Mr. Speaker, we need protection in this house. If, for example, an Arab or gunman entered this august house, how many of us can be able to recite Isaiah 54:17 so that God is in all image will save us?
The House will rise Sanadine on Tuesday and will resume sitting on Tuesday, May 27.
Two notorious money doublers, Atani Delali and Abubakar Gaba, have been arrested by the Northern Region Police in connection with cases of attempted murder at Savelugu in the Savelugu-Nanton municipality in Sanyarugu district.
Two are alleged to have engaged in gun battles in Savelugu and Sanyarugu, disturbing the peace and security of the towns. Both Atani Delali and Abubakar Gaba, on two separate occasions, are said to have injured each other in a shootout and been on the police wanted list for some time now. The two notorious money doublers are also alleged to be connected to the murder of Mohammed Naziru at Sanyarugu early this month, and Adam Zakaria, a 20-year-old resident of Savelugu, found dead at the family house of one of the suspects, Atani Delali, last week.
Suspect in our custody was alleged to have shot the other in Savelugu. He shot him in the leg, and we were given the information that he was behind the shooting, but unfortunately for us we could not get him, so we declared him wanted. We published him, and he's been on our wanted list for a while. Then last year another shooting incident also happened at Tamale. That was during the festival, the Gamba festival. Arrested these two persons who have been on our wanted list for some time. These are two suspects we've been looking for some time. It is opportune that we have arrested them at this time when Tamale have witnessed some disturbances. And we are pursuing some other persons, and with the arrest of these persons, we hope that it will put a lot of confidence in the public out there that the police is out there to ensure that law and order prevails in Tamale.
A 27-year-old chainsaw operator, Victor Amawuga, has confessed murdering 2 taxi drivers in separate locations in the Brahafo and Eastern regions. Victor Amawuga, after his arrest by the police, told newsmen in Sunyani that he killed the drivers and took their taxis away because of greed and the desire to become rich overnight. Nestor Kafuya-Joma sent in this report.
On June 7, 2013, 29-year-old Isaac Owusu was murdered by an unknown person at Dema in the Tano South district of the Bunafo region. The murderer bolted away with a taxi cab, Kia Rail, with the registration number AS64613, which belonged to the deceased. No suspect was arrested. Victor Amewuga was subsequently arrested from his hideout by the Akimoda police, and he confessed killing 2 taxi drivers, one at Dema and the other in the Eastern region. Confessing his heinous crimes at the Bonafo Regional Police Headquarters where charges were being preferred against him, the suspect said crime is no good because no matter how it is committed and where it is committed, it will eventually be exposed. Victor Amewuga further explained that he could not sleep because the ghost of the second person he killed around Akimodan was haunting him. He also advised those involved in armed robbery and car snatching, as well as those with intentions to do same as means of livelihood, to change because the end result is unbearable. The Bonafo Regional Police Public Relations Officer, ASP Christopher Teria, briefed the media on the issue.
Investigation was further done, and it has been established the suspect is a native of Akin Abinaso in the Eastern region. Victor Amewuga, who is the suspect, confessed having killed 2 taxi drivers, one each at Dema, which is under Bichim in the Brongafo region, and the other in the Eastern region. He was remanded by a law court in order to reappear before it. But this time around, Brongafo police has also gotten him, and a fresh charge will be preferred against him in Brongafo.
Nestor Kafuya-Joma's report.
Now to some politics now. Director of Elections for the New Patriotic Party, Martin J. Corsa, says they are confident the Electoral Commission will conduct a credible election on April 12 when the party goes to the polls to elect executives to lead it for the next 4 years. This, he says, is despite concerns they raised with the EC's handling of the 2012 election, which ended up in court.
All eyes will be on Tamale come April 12 as 5,192 delegates from across the country choose 8 executive members out of 44 contestants to steer the affairs of the party. Once current executives have taken stock of their tenure, the Electoral Commission will take charge of the voting process, and the party trusts the EC to conduct it properly.
When you have about 5,200 people going to vote, it's not compared in any measure to over 14 million on the national scale. In this election, every aspirant detailed enough
Okay, you can know the in and out of it. There is nothing cumbersome. There is nothing confusion.
So there wouldn't be double
there is no
anything like
there
that.
can be. Every voting category is clearly spelled out. The register for those have been given. If it's the MP category, 123 of them. If it's the TESCONs, 123. If it's the foundation members, 76. Council of Elders, 15. Council of Patrons, 15. Regional Executive Committee, 160. Constituency Executive Committee, 4,400. Which of them are you going to steal?
He says the party has allocated enough funds for the annual delegate conference, as essentials such as accommodation, feeding and transportation have all been arranged.
Enough that is required to run this process. It's been assembled. And it's been...
Like the 1 million?
Oh, maybe the finance people will tell you what it cost, but enough for doing this program has been sought.
According to him, 1,200 police officers will be on grounds to ensure safety. The Director of Elections also expressed hope that both the winning and losing sides will join forces after the elections and pursue the common goal of the party.
The Government and Hospital Pharmacists Association, GOSPA, has suspended for a month its partial strike, which was to see members limit their working hours to only weekdays. Executives explained it follows a decision to allow the National Labour Commission to take up their grievances. GOSPA is demanding the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission implement recommendations of a sub-cabinet committee set up 8 months ago to investigate issues having to do with their remuneration.
GOSPA a week ago announced of its decision to withdraw some services offered to patients across the various government hospitals. The association, however, says the partial strike, which started on Saturday, March 22, has been suspended.
We had a meeting with the National Labour Commission and Fair Wages. We were summoned for discussion on the issues. And we've been asked to resume normal services, and so that the National Labour Commission takes over the issue of the implementation of the sub-cabinet committee report. And we think we can hold back for at least a month to see whether this matter will be resolved. If it is not resolved, we'll embark on the same way of providing services.
For 3 years now, GOSPA has raised issues that border on its members' grading structure, conversion difference and market premiums. It cites, for instance, the disparity in salaries between its members and their colleagues in other public sectors. The executives have indicated they will be forced to go back to the partial withdrawal of their services if nothing is done within a month.
President Mahama has urged his colleague leaders to reject every effort to divide them and pursue what he describes as true unity among member states with tangible benefits for its people. The new ECOWAS chair, on his return from the sub-regional summit in Côte d'Ivoire over the weekend, further explained his vision for West Africa.
President John Dramani Mahama is said to be one of 3 West African leaders to have expressed interest in the chairmanship position. The others were Gambia's Yaya Jammeh and Liberia's Sirleaf Johnson. Foreign Affairs Minister Hannah Tete said President Mahama emerged tops after his colleagues had voted in camera.
Interesting thing with the election of a chair of ECOWAS is that it's a decision that is taken entirely by the presidents in private. And so what happens is that they go and consult amongst themselves. And then they come out and they make an announcement. But the fact of the matter was that because President Ouattara, the immediate past chairman of ECOWAS, was from a francophone country, usually we have a principle of rotation. And so therefore it was likely that the current chairman of ECOWAS was going to come from an anglophone speaking West African country. The heads of states went and consulted amongst themselves, deliberated and came back with the announcement that they had chosen our president to be the next chair of ECOWAS. And so he has the responsibility of leading ECOWAS through what is definitely going to be a challenging period, consolidating the integration agenda, finalizing the economic partnership agreement and getting ready for the other challenges that ECOWAS might face in the course of the year ahead.
President Mahama described it as an honor done Ghana and outlined key areas he intends to tackle.
Ghana has always led the way, and again we're being asked to lead the way because the current challenges that face the ECOWAS is how we can create a common market and integrate the West African sub-region together as our first president, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, envisioned it. And so if we've been given this appointment, it is to lead the way for a better integration of the West African continent, to allow our people, goods and services to be able to move freely in our sub-region. It's going to be a responsibility we have to discharge, but I'm confident that with the support of all Ghanaians, I will discharge this responsibility to the best of my ability.
Security concerns in Mali, Guinea-Bissau as well as Nigeria will be among other major challenges he says he'll deal with.
Up next, we bring you business news.
Time now for some business reports with me, Abigail Adumakwenchi. First, the Foreign Affairs Minister Hannah Tete says contrary to suggestions the Economic Partnership Agreement will kill industry, the EPA is actually key to its survival. Addressing journalists on arrival from the 44th ECOWAS Summit, which could not assent to the agreement, Hannah Tete challenged industry players to speak up about the matter, explaining that the ECOWAS heads of state agree in principle with the EPA.
Them whether without an EPA they can survive. If they can survive without an economic partnership agreement, then it strengthens the hands of the government to say we don't want to do this. But if indeed, as they have represented to government on several occasions, this is key to their survival, then we should understand the trade-offs we are making.
In a brief but detailed explanation, Hannah Tete said Ghana's agro-processing sector, which employs thousands of the population, will especially benefit from the EPA, adding emerging markets are rather the major threats to Ghana's industry.
And we don't export into those markets. All right? So this is a situation where the balance of trade in respect of our relations between them and us is negative. Whereas we import from the European Union and we export from the European Union. Pioneer Food Cannery would not be competitive against imports into the European Union from the Far East, from Thailand, from the Philippines, if they didn't have the duty-free, quota-free market access to the European Union.
The Foreign Affairs Minister said the negotiations have accommodated all the concerns being raised and provided necessary safeguard measures. She explained the liberalization of taxes on imports from the European Union will be done gradually over a 20-year period. This implementation will also attract financial assistance from the EU.
Capital goods, for instance, that are used as machinery, plant and equipment for production. We already don't charge duty. So when we put in a tariff schedule of liberalization, essentially what we are saying is that the status quo remains for the next 5 years. All right? And then we begin to liberalize the tariffs within the next 5-year period on those goods that attract 5 to 10% duty. Right? Then over the next 5 years, the 20% duty, and over the next 5 years, 30% duty. That's the way the agreement is stretched out. The European Union has indicated that in the first 5 years, they are going to give us financial assistance, a development, an EPA development package funding of 6.5 billion euros for the West Africa region. And they could perhaps even do more. And then in the next 5-year period, there would be an additional 6.5 billion euros.
The heads of ECOWAS states declined to sign the agreements at the recently ended ECOWAS summit in Yamoussoukro, Ivory Coast. Kitian Dopia, Joynews, Accra.
The economist with the University of Ghana, Dr. Osei, says government will only overburden its expenditure and run more deficits if it embarks on the free SHS policy now. Reacting to the recent negative debt outlook rating by Fitch, he said the economic challenges have become a vicious cycle, mainly due to government's overspending, which needs to be checked.
Budget deficits for the past 2 years caused credit rating agency Fitch to lower to negative from stable Ghana's debt outlook. Economist Dr. Osei explains it will make it more difficult for Ghana to access external funds, hence the need for government to focus on existing projects.
Once you have been downgraded and your risk premium is increased, you have to borrow at a higher interest. And so you have to be mindful what you are going to use the money for. That is the most important thing. the building of these new 50 schools and others. I think it's a policy that can wait, because if you look at our current macroeconomic environment and the deficit that we are having, I think it's going to be overburden the government to still commit itself to delivering on this promise, you know, because the environment does not suit it. Already the country is in arrears. Many of the statutory payments have not been made. Okay, the revenues are not coming. The growth momentum is being challenged because of the energy disruptions that we are having. So we are likely not to even meet our growth targets. Inflation is going up, debt stock is increasing, and so if you are adding more, you know, in terms of physical, then you are not actually addressing the problem. So these things can wait, so that it can wait until when we have a stability and we are able to generate more revenue, then the government can go in to deliver on some of these promises.
He added that although borrowing from the IMF has its implications, the current economic situation demands that government does so to get the economy running.
You cannot have about 60% of your GDP in budget, or the budget or the deficit, the debt stock is about almost 60%. What that means is that it is increasing your debt payment obligation, so that it will come to a point where you will be, or you may not be able to service this debt, and which will have a serious implication on the economy if we begin to default on our payment obligations. That will be worse. So, well, we can eat the humble pie and go back to IMF for it to begin to rescue us, give us money to settle some of this mature debt, which will then also mean that they will have to present to us their own programs and
it comes with its own implications.
The conditions and others. But as of now, I think we have very little choice if we really want to bring stability. And if that is also done, it will also engender some kind of confidence in the investor community to come.
The government must position itself well enough to make sure that these challenges that we are going through as an economy do not become a vicious cycle. Budget deficits, pressures from the exchange rate, depreciation of the cedi, a whole lot. Government must make sure that it focuses on projects that would ensure that the economy is growing, and not overspend on projects that would not really benefit the economy. Operations at Heritage Towers, one of Accra's major commercial real estate units, was disrupted this morning for a few hours after a generator supplying power to the building failed. Customers and clients of the businesses operating out of the building, including banks and other financial services as well as their staff, were left stranded for the period. The generator was said to have been working since Thursday after electricity was disconnected to the facility for non-payment of bills.
The generator was back up, though the Electricity Company of Ghana was yet to restore supply. Head of Property Management at Pro Ghana, however, returned subsequently to explain arrangements had been made to settle the outstanding bill.
Usually we recover bills from tenants directly prior to paying, but recently the payments have been quite slow because of the higher tariff increases. So our ability to also pay up front is also being compromised at the moment. So what we are seeking to do is that we've engaged the ECG in some discussions, and hopefully by the end of today, the building, everything should return to normal.
He, however, complained most of the tenants refused to pay their bills promptly, the reason why they were unable to pay the ECG in good time. He, however, assured they are working hard to avert a recurrence of the problem.
Now we're off for business. My name is Abigail at Sports is up next.
sports on a rather interesting note. The next Black Stars skipper Stephen Appiah has waded into the debate concerning Nigeria's coach Stephen Keshi's decision to allow wives of players to travel with the Super Eagles to Brazil for the World Cup. Appiah, who captained Ghana in Germany 2006 and South Africa 2010, believes too much focus is being placed on the comments by Nigeria's trainer, and he does not have a problem with the wives going alongside with the Black Stars to the World Cup.
No, because you know, at times people see it in a different way, in a negative way. If you said, Stephen Appiah, don't bring your wife to camp, do you think that you're going to stop me from bringing my wife to Brazil? No. I will still bring my wife. I will put her in a different hotel, and maybe I will sneak and go and see my wife. The question is, I don't know why people are making big issue about this thing. It's Stephen Keshi who said that he's going to allow the wives, but he's not going to allow the fiancés. So I granted an interview and I said no, it's going to bring problem in the team, because if you know, I mean, not everybody who is married. Yeah. So people see their fiancés like their wives. So if you allow wives, then the fiancés too should come, because I don't see the reason why. I mean, it will bring a lot of problem. That's what I said, but I don't think that is a bad thing. I've seen a lot of countries or teams going to a tournament, and then, I mean, there is a time that the coach forces the players to bring the wives. So I think that it helps to.
Let's talk about the national team who will not be given that luxury to send their boyfriends, the Black Maidens. President of the National Women's League Board, Linia Adi, has congratulated the Black Maidens on their quarter-final feat at the just ended FIFA Women Under-17 World Cup in Costa Rica. The Maidens arrived in the country over the weekend after their painful defeat to the Italians in the knockout phase of the competition, but have received rave reviews from the fraternity, including Linia Adi.
I think they've done so well and they have a bright future. I think these four girls are going to be our future national senior team. If we just go through the transition work, their progression, I know some of them will be able to play with the under-20, but we have to keep the rest so that we make sure we monitor their training and then see how they are faring until the next regrouping for the World Cup.
You know that. What is the plan like now that they've exited the Under-17 championship?
Like I just said, we know that the under-20 is preparing for Canada. We also know that the goal-scoring ability of the under-20 team has to be looked at. There are certain areas the under-20 coach will have to look, where we have also these girls in the under-17 team who can also deliver. So I believe the coach would have to do something, but the FA is also in plans of having an academy so that we can keep the girls together, especially when they are on vacations. So I think there's a plan.
Let's talk about the MTN FA Cup, because the quarterfinals could witness up to 3 all-Premier League clashes, with league leaders Asante Kotoko drawn against regional rivals Ashanti Gold on the weekend of April 16 to 20. Asante Kotoko have been drawn against regional rivals Ashanti Gold in the quarterfinals of the MTN FA Cup competition. The Premier League champions, who are chasing a double this term, were pitted against the minors in the draw held at the Ghana FA headquarters in Accra on Monday. Kotoko will play host to the original rivals at the Baba Yara Sports Stadium in a fixture slated to take place from April 16th to 20. The quarter-final draw also sees Inter-Allies take on Hazakis in an all-Premier League clash. Holders Midyama SC will be facing Fete Feyenoord once they are able to beat Okwel United in the outstanding round of 16 clash, while Ken Faisal will take on either Duana Stars or Dawenya United. Meanwhile, Midyama SC would know their CAF Confederation Cup opponents on Tuesday and could see them being drawn against record holders Al Ahly. The losing teams from the CAF Champions League will be drawn against their CAF Confederation opponents in the final qualifying hurdle. That's your sports. I'm George Adi Jr. Israel will join us with some more. You have a good night.
After reports came through, the dancehall artist Shatta Wale had been attacked in Toronto, Canada, whilst there for a series of performances. Showbiz promised to catch up with the artist on his return to confirm the report. Indeed, he has confirmed there was an attempt on him, but that he wants to put whatever happened behind him.
up for the first performance since he arrived from his Toronto tour. Shatta Wale obviously has become one of the few artists in Ghana currently who is constantly sought after for shows. As he touched down last Saturday, he had already been billed for 2 different shows that same day: the Night Train Parade Jam at La Beach and the Switch concert on Legon campus. Typical of him, he got his fans screaming for more at the end of his performance at both venues. We caught up with Bulldog, manager of Shatta Wale, and Shatta himself for confirmation of the reports. Whilst Bulldog remained tight-lipped about the incident,
eventually we resolved it. We don't believe in pushing or still going on with stuff. The only reason why you got to hear the news was we were outside. Even if it was here and it happened, we wouldn't have talked about it, but I've solved it quietly. But because we're out there and we never know what could happen, how dangerous it was, the magnitude of the issue, that's why we put it out there. So for us back home, we don't really want to talk about it, yes.
Shatta recounts to Joynews what exactly happened in Toronto.
So it happened in Toronto that we were in a hotel and, some boys came around, drinking with us, and all they said was that they were sent by Samini to come and do what. And they said the way they saw me, they couldn't do anything because they saw that I was real and, I was a down-to-earth person. And, I really felt bad, so I had to tell my manager, Bulldog, and Bulldog came in to ask them the same thing, and they said it. So I believe I've been saying this for years now, but it seems Ghana is not paying heed to what I'm saying. But all I'll say is I'll leave everything to God. Nobody came to attack me. Nobody came to beat me. It was just that the people saw the God in me. So they really poured out what they were supposed to, say to me. And
at least both Bulldog and Shatta Wale admit this feud with Samini will end very soon.
Well, I've ended it in my life. I've played a song. I've given all my life to God. I've forgiven all my enemies now. So I believe if someone doesn't love me, it's a song problem, because I love everybody. I pray for every Ghanaian artist to move on and make money like the way I'm doing now in my time. So
why won't it end? I mean, I'm not a soothsayer. I think these things will happen naturally. So in due course, these things will patch up themselves. I mean, Reggie at the time had his own issues with all the extos and whatever. I mean, we've seen that in the industry for a while. I mean, so I'm sure time will tell.
Dancehall fans who have been worried about Shatta and Samini can possibly begin to look at the brighter days ahead, and Showbiz will be right here to keep you posted.
That'll be all for Showbiz. Coming up on PM Express over the weekend, ECOWAS failed to sign the Economic Partnership Agreement due to some technical issues raised by some member countries, particularly Nigeria. What really are these issues and their implications? Deputy Trade Minister Nilante van der Poy and Deputy General Secretary of the General Agricultural Workers Union of the TUC will help us understand the issues this evening at 9 p.m. on PM Express. Also joining the conversation on phone is Paul Frimpong, a chartered economist and African affairs analyst. So do stay tuned. That'll be all for the bulletin. Before we go, a quick run through our top stories. The finance minister is due in Parliament over current economic challenges. 300 persons have been displaced by a rainstorm in the Volta region's Akachi North District. MPs have renewed calls for the state to provide them with personal protection over fears they could fall victim to recent murders. Government and hospital pharmacists suspend partial withdrawal of services following intervention by National Labour Commission. And gastric bypass surgery amongst procedures now available. A newly refurbished Kolebu surgery department reopened after 7-month shutdown. That'll be it. My name is Israel. Have a good evening.